Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, your home for all Oakland University Golden Grizzly sports. My name is GioMoShow, and before we get started, I got a big announcement. It's the biggest news in GioMoShow history, and I've been holding back on it to make sure that everything was confirmed to occur, but you guys saw the Instagram post earlier this week. I'm going to be hosting a live watch party as Oakland men's basketball hits the road to Wright State and face the Wright State Raiders. It's going to be a big away game, and I'll be at O Grizzly's Bar and Bistro just across the street from Oakland University hosting the whole event. I'll have a half-hour pregame show before the 7 p.m. tip-off, so it begins at 6:30. And then I'll be entertaining throughout the rest of the game. I'll get you your scoring highlights. I'll keep you guys updated throughout the rest of the Horizon League as it pertains to the Golden Grizzlies, and we'll just have a whole bunch of fun at O Grizzlies. I love what they do for an Oakland-themed sports bar that had to open immediately after I graduated. I'm not salty about it at all, but I just love what they do. I love that they want to be the Oakland sports bar, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I want to give a big thank you to O Grizzlies for making and helping make this happen, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Remember, Thursday night, January 9th, 6:30 is the pregame show, and you can catch it live at O Grizzly's Bar and Bistro. $3 bottles, $4 shots, and $5 cocktails, as well as BOGO boneless wings. If you need a little bit more incentive to stop by, I'm a big wing guy, and I requested that, like, hey, can we do a little bit of a deal on wings? And they were happy to oblige. So once again, $3 bottles, $4 shots, $5 cocktails, and BOGO boneless wings as the host of the GioMoShow will be in town and in the restaurant hosting the live watch party. I'm just so excited for it, and I hope you guys are going to be able to stop by. So with that out of the way, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the GioMoShow to help support the show as we're in the thick of full-time Horizon League basketball. You can follow the GioMoShow on Instagram at the GioMo Show and on Twitter at GioMoSherry, WXOU, and you can use the hashtag the GioMo Show to get involved with the show. So this week, once again, we got all basketballs. We have 4 home games all in a row for men's and women's, well, combined men's and women's, as they started off their full-time Horizon League season on the blacktop. 2 really good stories, 2 really disappointing ones for the team. So I guess you could say we broke even for this weekend of ball at the blacktop. So I'll start things off with men's basketball, and I'll start the segment with this. If you guys want more in-depth coverage of these games, and I this week, as I have been for the whole season, I've been having guests on for the Oakland men's basketball game reviews. This week is Griffin Beers, as he was at both of the games we talk about, the Milwaukee game as well as the Robert Morris one. So if you want more in-depth coverage of that, be sure to go check that out. It's on YouTube and wherever you get your platform, same place as you find the GioMoShow. But I'll get through my recaps here. We'll start with the men's, and then we'll get into the women's to cap off the show. So like I mentioned before, for this weekend, for both teams, but specifically men's basketball, it was a really, really big high. It's a bit of a mixed bag of a high and a low. And we'll start things with the good news in chronological order, because the good thing came first, as Oakland was able to defeat Milwaukee 65-49. And let me dig a little bit deeper. Milwaukee is the number 1 team in the Horizon League at the preseason poll and at the time that we faced them. They were 3-0 in conference, and the last time that we played them was in the Horizon League championship game in Indianapolis. So there was a lot of juice coming into this game. And Oakland was kind of coming into this one after that huge gauntlet of a schedule in the month of December, where it was Michigan State on December 17th, Cleveland State on the 19th, and then 22nd, 23rd, and 25th in Hawaii in the Diamond Head Classic. And then Monday they go over to Arkansas to face the Razorbacks to get the doors blown off them in the second half. Yeah, I'm not going to mention the Arkansas game here just because the Horizon League season is obviously the most important. But yeah, we kind of got whooped there, but it was close in the first half. Anyway, so all of that huge amount of work and tough games built into this one, Oakland's biggest task would come first against Milwaukee, and they handled it. They handled them mightily. and we'll get into kind of a general flow of the game here. I got my notebook here that I was in the arena with, taking all kinds of notes on the game as a play-by-plays, kind of stuff that stuck out to me. So just that you guys know kind of what I'm coming off of. So Oakland would start this one off really well, strong defense to start. It was a DQ block, and then it would go to 2 offensive rebounds for Isaiah Jones into a Mukeba hook shot, and then Baru would get another block, like right off the bat. Those were the first few plays of the game. It was looking really good for Oakland, but as the game went on, like this is Milwaukee. Like this is a really good team. So it was kind of like we're doing well, but like you could tell that they were weren't far behind in this game. And it would stay close for a lot of the first half, but Oakland was just making everything difficult for Milwaukee on the offensive side of things. The defense was just oozing with effort and with extra, the forcefulness of rebounds and stuff. Like Oakland was doing incredibly well, and they would have the lead for many minutes of the first half. It would go a couple ways to Milwaukee at certain points, but as we kept going, so Milwaukee, they started off the three-point shooting 2 of 2. So it was kind of like, when it came to them on beyond the three-point line. But then they would go 0-4 for their next attempts, and that was a theme that would continue throughout the game as they would go from 2-2 from deep and then 2 of 6. Like they just really couldn't get the threes going after the first couple of those went down. And just before the first half, or rather just before a timeout was called, this was about 4 minutes left in the first half. I noticed that there was a lady sitting next to me playing Tetris. That bothered me. There's a basketball game going on. Please stop playing Tetris. Anyway, that's not important. But either way, it was the Jones brothers were doing well. And a funny moment I noticed was, DQ, I believe, took a shot, and he would get fouled as he was going up. So he was about to start the free throws there. But the play was definitely blown dead. And as the rebound was kind of popping up, Deng Majak would kind of, for fun, dunk it. Oh my God. Everyone was furious at it because it wasn't so much like, the play's over, whatever. Like that could have been a goaltending, and that could have taken away, that could have been bad. So not only was Campy furious, like it was silent because the whistle was blown, and you could hear Campy screaming his head off, as well as the rest of the team, and DQ right in his face. Like, I found that funny. I mean, like, no criticism of that. Obviously, it's not good. Don't do it again, especially for Dang, who's starting to find himself with more minutes. It was kind of funny to see him get yelled at, with all due respect. Anyway, so Oakland was in the lead, in the driver's seat, and then the defense was just starting to squeeze. And it was starting to squeeze tighter and tighter until the Oakland would get into the double digits of leads as they would hold Milwaukee after the first half to 23 points. Oakland would end the first half 33-23, a 10-point lead against the best team in the Horizon League. The best team in the Horizon League, by the way, who was averaging over 80 points a game. I believe that was in conference play. That's what Campy was mentioning in the post game, but they're on pace for 46 points. And like I mentioned at the top of the segment here, they would finish with 49. So that defense continued continuously through that second half. Milwaukee would eventually, again, after making their first 2 threes, they would go 1-7 for their next attempts. 3-minute scoring droughts at a time, and by the half, Oakland would be up by 10, like I mentioned. And some of the first half stats that I had written down, the biggest one to me was Oakland. I mean, it was tied at rebounding, but Oakland was getting to the free throw line, and Milwaukee was not. So not only was that defense holding them to 23 points in 20 minutes, but Oakland got to the line 13 times, or took 13 shots from the stripe. Milwaukee only had 3 attempts at it and only made 1 of them. So that was a huge difference. It was one that would continue throughout the game. And essentially, it was just Oakland's defense continuing to squeeze and continuing to choke out the Milwaukee Panthers on their way to a 65-49 win. And it was incredible. Oakland would end up taking 24 free throws, while Milwaukee only had 7 of them. near like over a 3-1 margin to take free throws. Oakland would outscore them on the free throw line alone by 14. And again, to do that against a team that scored about 80 points a game, I just walked away breathtaking by the defense. So Oakland would get a big win in their opening home stand to start off Horizon League play. Unfortunately, that did not continue into the next game. When they played Robert Morris on Saturday afternoon, I had to watch this one from home, unfortunately. But either way, or excuse me, let me get to the box score. Let's get to some box score highlights for Oakland. Alan Mukeba had 15 points and 9 rebounds. Yeah, Jalen Jones, and I mentioned the Jones brothers before, just before we get to Robert Morris, but both the Jones brothers would score into double digits. They would combine for, what would that be? They would combine for 25 points and 12 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds, and they were pretty efficient doing it. Isaiah Jones would be 5 of 6 from the line. Jalen Jones would be 4 of 4 from the line. They would shoot pretty efficiently as well. They combined for 5 steals as well, 3 assists. Like the brothers were doing real well against Milwaukee, and it was a lot of fun to see. Something me and Griffin were talking about was how Jalen Jones, like, doesn't look so good when he's at the rim, when he's against teams like Arkansas. But when he's in the Horizon League, he gets that quick step going, and he's able to get up there pretty well and able to score at the basket pretty well as well. And he made a couple of threes as well. He had 2 of the 3 made three-pointers that Oakland had in that game, but that's also an issue, the fact that they only made 3. So got those box score highlights. Baru, he had 10 and 3 on the game. Not a whole lot of Baru in that game, but he would have a better performance in the following game. But overall, for the box score, like I mentioned, Oakland was huge from the free throw line, but not so much from the three-point line. They had 3 makes out of 17 attempts. This three-point shooting blows. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't think it's deniable at this point. It is a great shame. It's a disappointment to really see the three-point shooting go the way it is, and especially with the recruiting and the team building that was had last summer. Oakland was one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league last year. Blake Lamman and Jack Golke were 2 of the top 3 shooters in the league. Purdue Fort Wayne's Quentin Morton Robertson was the only one in contention for that. So, to recover from that, Oakland, they would get Malcolm Christie, the best three-point shooter, one of the best players in all of Canada. They would get Jason Woodrich, who has notoriously torched Oakland from 3 while also playing in the Horizon League. DQ Cole was also really good from 3 last year, already on an Oakland team. So, it wasn't the fault of, the team building. It's just not working, and it's weird. Isaiah Jones and Jalen Jones from 3, compared to the rest of the team, they had a lot of the production from deep. So it's just weird to see, and it's not something that's quite improving. It kind of sucks. Luckily, we got Baru and Mukeba to be able to, have some offensive consistency. But dude, it's desperate at times, and we'll get into that much more with Robert Morris that we'll finally get into now. Oakland against Robert Morris, an unfortunate 71-79 loss to the Colonials in what was a very, very winnable game. A game that Oakland had a 10-point lead in the second half, and it got reversed on them. And they would go down by double digits themselves. Getting more into the game itself, we'll go and take a look at my notes. I'll kind of go through some of the key plays going on. First of all, I do want to mention, one of the notes on the broadcast was that Toole, Robert Morris's coach, Toole, and Greg Campy are the 2 only active coaches in the Horizon League with a league championship under their belt. And I did also want to shout out how Coach Toole looks extremely sharp. He's one of the few coaches nowadays that wears a full suit. Well, not the full suit. He didn't have the tie, but it was the blue jacket, white shirt, no tie. He had the white shoes to go with it, the sneakers as well. He was looking real sharp. And I just wanted to give a shout out to that because I do like the suit and tie kind of look of coaches and wish that was something that would come back in sports. But either way, I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned. So Robert Morris would be the one that had the lead at first, and they were just killing it from 3. They started off 3 of 4 from 3 in the opening few minutes, and Oakland would kind of keep it close. They would not go away, but they couldn't get out of a 1 to 2 possession deficit, Robert Morris was still doing very well. Wasn't until towards the end of the first half that Oakland would really get close in this one, and I'll reference the box score play-by-play to confirm. But yeah, Oakland would start to flip the script a little bit towards the last few minutes, like inside 7 minutes of the first half. Jalen Jones will make a 3 to get a 4-point lead. Jalen Jones will make another 3 to make it 7, and would kind of keep going in that way. Baru would get a dunk to make it a 7-point lead. Like Oakland had some decent control of the game getting towards halftime, and something that kind of shifted the vibe of the game. Like like Robert Morris was doing really well in that first half, so it wasn't something like Oakland was dominating, but like Oakland had control of the game at halftime. But a bit of a tone change was at the very end of the half. Baru had a perfect opportunity for that that lob dunk. And Isaiah Jones, when he was going to pass that, so like Baru had the clear routes, like going around towards the baseline, but the pass to it just bricked on the rim. Baru didn't even get a chance at it, so Oakland kind of, didn't quite get it. And Campy was upset about it at the halftime interview with Patty Cesarini, but it was kind of like it was a bit shaky in the first half. So what did Oakland do when they started the second half? Well, they immediately went back to that same play, got Baru the dunk. So that got Oakland really going here. And then Christie would make a 3. That would give Oakland a 10-point lead in the first few minutes of the second half. They would go into the tunnel up 7, and they were not doing well from 3, but they were really out-rebounding Robert Morris. And then that last push would, a 10-point lead at the start of the second half, you're like, okay, we got this. We just have to keep it kind of consistent. That is not what happened, though, is Robert Morris, especially Cody Woods, is that his name? Mr. Woods. I forget what his first name is. Let me look at the box score. Cam Woods of Robert Morris, he would just start to go nuclear. He had 21 points coming out of the first media timeout. He was 3 of 4 from 3. He was perfect from the line. Oakland, and he would start to get the lead for Robert Morris, and then Oakland would start to go on a drought. Oakland would not score. The offense just stopped, really. It would go ice cold for a while, and it would kind of go back and forth until Robert Morris just started to pull away with a sizable halftime lead. Oakland, like I said, up to 10 points. And then by the time 13 and a half minutes came around, Robert Morris would start to establish a consistent lead that would end up growing to double digits themselves. So a 20-point swing is what was had, and Robert Morris would end up scoring 47 points in that second half on their way to that 75-71 win over Oakland. You kind of feel like we blew it. And part of it was the three-point shooting not being there, but like we've operated under that before. I mean, we attempted a lot more in this game than we did against Milwaukee, but we've been able to work around that. But it just wasn't happening. Inside wasn't as dominant as it needs to be to make up for that, and Robert Morris was just playing very, very well inside and out. But again, you got the lead. You should win this one. But we didn't. Robert Morris going into this game, let me look at the previous week's standings. Going into that game, there were 6th place. They were just right above Oakland. They were 1 and 2 in the league before this weekend. Oakland should win that game at home, but they don't. They split the weekend against, win against the best team, and then a loss you shouldn't have had. It should have been a sweep this week. But it was just disappointing. It was disappointing enough to where in the postgame press conference, you had comments from Baru and from Alan Mukeba, and Baru uttered a phrase that I'm not sure how I feel about it. He said, quote, "We just sucked," when it came to their performance in this game, and I don't. There's two ways with it. And this was the way that I was kind of taken in the press room at the time, that it's accountability. That's a good thing in sports. It's good to know when to take accountability when it's your fault or something you could have done better, because it ultimately makes you better. But part of me was a little bit uneasy seeing that, because it wasn't the first time that Oakland struggled, especially in league play, and they didn't say that we sucked then. Is that kind of a sign of shaky confidence? Because what also was mentioned in the postgame press conference by Campy was that they don't handle adversity well. And that was kind of an example in that game where when Robert Morris was starting to come back and started to cut down the lead and started to get the lead themselves, Oakland did not respond well to be able to fight back against that adversity. So to have that combined with the "we just sucked" quote, I'm kind of concerned with that, especially given the tough task on the road that Oakland has coming up at Wright State and at Northern Kentucky. It's notoriously the toughest road trip in the season. And to have "we just sucked" kind of echo in, they said that they mentioned it in the locker room, to have that kind of echoing, I hope it becomes a motivating thing, because to me, it's kind of concerning. We'll have to see how it ends up. It's all about the response, of course, but I that left a bad taste in my mouth hearing that quote. And, I wish it wasn't true, at least in that game. Like, it wasn't good enough. But I hope that's not a sign of poor confidence. But either way, all that being said, Oakland is currently now down to 8th place in the Horizon League after coming into this weekend at the 7th spot. They are tied with Wright State and with Robert Morris at a 2-3 conference record. But everyone else towards the top half of the league, your top 5 teams all have at least 4 wins in conference already. And you're tied with, you are along with 4 teams that have 2. So already there's a 2-game deficit between you and where you want to be in the top 4, because the top 4 gets the home bye, home and a bye, for the Horizon League tournament, and that's huge. So already the gap is there, and Oakland's going to have to go on their toughest road trip of the season to be able to bridge that gap, get them into the top 4. That'll take place Thursday at 7 o'clock in Dayton, Ohio, as they take on the Wright State Raiders, and then Saturday at 6 p.m. in Highland Heights, Kentucky, as they face Northern Kentucky. I'll be at O Grizzly's hosting the watch party for both of those, so be sure to head over to O Grizzly's for your game day treats and your lovely host. And then they'll come home next Wednesday, January 15th, to face IU Indy, hopefully in a game that is something that doesn't wash a bad taste out of your mouth. It's something that could maybe be a cherry on top to a good weekend on the road. We'll have to see how it ends up. And you can subscribe here to the GioMoShow to find out if that's the case, to keep up with your recaps and highlights of all Golden Grizzlies. So, Oakland 2-3 in the league. It's not looking good coming off a bad loss to Robert Morris, but we did beat the best team in the league. So it's kind of a mixed bag. We're heading over now to the next segment of women's basketball, where we have kind of a similar mixed bag. We'll be right back here on the JioMoShow. And welcome back here to the JioMoShow, your home for all Golden Grizzlies sports. Let's now get into women's basketball, who had a similar, a weirdly similar weekend to the men's team, where it was the highest of highs in early conference play, and this one reached even lower depths. So we'll get things started chronologically, where the good news came first. After Oakland starts on the road for their first 3 Horizon League games, they would come out of it perfect, 3-0. And I left the last week's episode with a bit of a question, or at least acknowledge the concern that they were against 3 of not some of the best teams in the Horizon League. How are they going to stand up against 2 of the best teams in the Horizon League, where they will be hosting Cleveland State and Purdue Fort Wayne? Like the top of the league essentially is coming in one weekend. Is that 3-0 start fraudulent, or can they defend it and it be a legitimate stance as one of the best teams in the league? Well, kind of both happened. And the first one against Cleveland State was just incredible to watch. I was lucky enough to be in the arena for that one, thus the green notebook with all the notes and star plays in that game. This one was it was obviously a lot of fun to watch, and I'm looking through just to make sure I can find my place in my notes here. So again, this is the best team in the league coming to play. And Oakland in this game would start off, in a deficit, like pretty early, up to a 9-point deficit in the first quarter. And we're like, oh no, this ain't looking good. Oakland's offense really needed to get started quickly, and it would end up having to happen, and it did happen. It would close out the first half only being down by 5. And as the game would continue, Oakland would chip away at it. They would tie it at 17 with a Kylie Buckley layup in the paint. But Cleveland State was still keeping about a 2-possession lead until Oakland would finally make a three-pointer. And it would be Macy Smith that get them the lead 28-21. Neither team was really shooting the three very well. And it took a long time for the first one to go in. And it would be Jasmine Dupree-Hebert, who was huge in that stretch for Oakland, to be able to get them back into this one. They would be tied going into halftime, down by 1, 31-30. But a lot of offensive effort was being poured out into this one. And I want to especially shout out Jasmine Dupree-Hebert, who was 2 of 3 from deep for a quick 8 points at the start of the game. She would end up getting up to 10 points in the first half. And she was really like that. That's what I love about Jazzy, is that she, doesn't get a whole lot of minutes, but like when she's there, like her role is to energize and to get things going. She is the spark that gets the team going, because especially for this game, what ended up kind of being the story was that Jazzy got the fire started, and then it was Macy and Skorupski that would continue cooking with that heat, to keep it with the metaphor. At halftime, Oakland, like I said, only down by 1, 31-30. Jazzy would have 10 points. Macy Smith would have 9, but was rough from 3. She was one of 5 from deep. Maddie Skorupski was 1 of 4 from deep, but she had 7 points. And, Oakland had the makings of, like, hey, we're still in this. We're still 1 point down and could potentially be 4-0 in league play. But for Cleveland State, Guerrero with 10 points right away, a very efficient 10 points and 5 rebounds to get things started. And Destiny Leo, who I believe is the predicted player of the year on Cleveland State. She was 2 of 6 from 3. She was really the only 3-point shooting going on for Cleveland State at the time. So we start into the third quarter, where Oakland and Cleveland State would go back and forth. Cleveland State would keep about a 2-possession lead. It got up to 6 and 7 points. But Oakland would come back right away with another 1-point deficit going into now the fourth quarter. Like they kept the margin the same in the third quarter. It would be 55-54. A Maddie Skorupski 3-pointer with 24 seconds left would make it such. And then, you're at home now. Now the crowd's starting to really get into it. Now the energy is going, and that's what you need when you're playing at home. You just got to kind of hold on against these really good teams and then let the home crowd energy flow through. You got to ride the lightning a little bit. So Oakland would eventually do that. They would keep close. They would keep doing battle, and I want to point out, at 2 minutes and 33 seconds, I think the biggest play of the game occurred. It was Maddie Skorupski would go up to get Oakland the lead and won. The layup would get them the 1-point lead, but the free throw that she did make for the 3-point play would end up getting them up by 2 with 2 minutes and 33 seconds left. There would be a free throw made by Cleveland State. Only one of them was made, splitting the free throws and cutting the deficit to 1, or cutting Oakland's lead to 1. They would continue doing battle. Missed 3-pointer and a steal and a missed jumper for Cleveland State would kind of be their flow of it. But Oakland would not allow them to score. And then Kylie Buckley, who had limited minutes in this game but came in clutch, as she was fouled and had 2 free throws that could have either forced it to that could have forced it to 2 points or potentially lock it away with 3 points. She would end up making both, giving it a 71-68 lead, and that's where the scoring would freeze. They would not be able to get another shot off or except the last second, a missed three-pointer, but I think that was one just being heaved from half court. Oakland was able to lock it down with a 3-point lead for the final few seconds and walk away victorious against the best team in the league. Back-to-back nights in the arena, men's team beating Milwaukee, number one team in the league. Women's team beating Cleveland State, number one team in the league. I was on cloud nine, man. It was like heroin, and I was at both games. Like, it was awesome to see that happen. And now to get into the box score, like the real huge story for this one was both Maddie Skorupski and Macy Smith. And again, I want to shout out Jazzy as well. She would finish the game with 12, but Maddie Skorupski, 25 points. 9 of 20 from the field, would make 3 of her 9 three-pointers, 4 of 5 from the line. Macy Smith, also 9 field goals, but out of 15, 4 of 10 from deep. And both Skorupski and Smith would combine for 10 assists and 4 rebounds. And Skorupski would also have 4 steals in this game. Like, it was just huge production from the top 3 of the team. But, you had your 25, your 22, and your 12 points as your top 3 scores, but then everyone else had 4 and 2. So it was really concentrated into Oakland's 3 best players. And Oakland defensively, they would hold Cleveland State to only 5 of 22 from beyond the arc. That's 22.7%. They were holding them holding them from 3. One that they were attempting over and over again, especially, Destiny Leo. She would have 9 attempts, make only 3 of them, and it was, most of the three-pointers that Cleveland State was making. But it was enough to get a win, and it was, that kind of last second, like, I'm pounding the seat in front of me because there's no one in it, and I was, like, slapping the back of the chair to make noise, and I was high-fiving strangers, man. I was hype when I saw that. At 4-0 in the Horizon League. It's never happened before since Oakland has entered the Horizon League. It's the first time they've ever started 4-0. It was awesome. And then we played Purdue Fort Wayne. We felt the rumble, and I was saying that on Twitter, like, we felt the rumble in that one. Apparently, Oakland had only enough gas to beat one of the 2 best teams in the Horizon League, and Purdue Fort Wayne came in here and laid waste to the Golden Grizzlies in the arena. It was a 40-point defeat, 77-37. I don't have a lot of notes on this one. Oakland was just bad. It was bad. We had no gas. We couldn't score. And Purdue Fort Wayne was just nuclear from 3, which is what they do normally. It's not like a surprise. This team shoots threes a lot. And they got some of the best players in the league to do it. They would finish 13 of 36 from 3 for a nice 36%. And it wasn't even like the box score isn't crazy, except for Sydney Freeman, who was 5 of 7 from deep. Everyone else was kind of, nothing crazy. You're 2 of 6, 2 of 5, 2 of 4 from 3. You had a couple of goose eggs from 3 as well, but Oakland just couldn't score. I don't know what the problem was. When I was watching them against Cleveland State, I noticed, and I don't know if it's just, me not knowing enough about women's basketball, but like every offensive possession looked difficult for Oakland, and it was kind of awkward to see. You saw Cleveland State, they were a lot more smooth with the ball handling and knew where to go with the ball. Oakland was just kind of like, here, you're open, do something. I'm not open anymore. Let me go to somebody else. Even with their win against Cleveland State, like, it looks weird, and this one was just like the worst case scenario of that kind of style all at once. 77-40-37, man. 40-point loss. That's all there is to say about their game against Purdue Fort Wayne. So overall, you split the weekend against 2 of the best teams in the Horizon League. After the bad taste was washed out from Purdue Fort Wayne, that's a good weekend. You start 3-0 in league and you split against the best teams. Like, you're still 4-1. That ain't bad. I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that, actually. A 4-1 conference start is not what I was expecting to see, especially, given, like, I'm going to always go back to it, given that it's another interim head coach situation where Deanna Richard is, running things, and, Tunket had to retire suddenly. So that's a huge blow to the team, but they're coming out with one of their best starts in Horizon League history. So Oakland, with that 3-0 conference record, was 4th place coming into this weekend. They would drop 1 spot to 5th place, as like in the men's side, it's a very strong top half of the league, not so much the other way down. Oakland finding themselves at the lower end of the top of the league, which is another way to say middle of the league. 5th place is where they stand at 4-1 with Green Bay, Detroit Mercy, Cleveland State, and Purdue Fort Wayne on top. Purdue Fort Wayne starts 6-0 in conference. Cleveland State, Oakland giving them their only loss at 5-0, and Detroit Mercy and Green Bay tying with a 4-1 conference record. And everyone else in the league, 2 or less wins. So for the Golden Grizzlies, their next trip will be another game at home this Wednesday. It'll be tomorrow as of this release. They'll be at home against IU Indy. IU Indy, who is currently, let me look at the standings again. They're currently 2-4 and 7th place in the league. So they'll be hosting them on Wednesday before hitting the road to Detroit and then to Wisconsin for both Milwaukee and Green Bay. After Wednesday, they won't be home until the 23rd against Robert Morris. So you got a mixed bag of competition coming up in the Horizon League. You got IU Indy, which could be a good win at home. Detroit Mercy's a tough team to play, especially in Callahan Hall. Milwaukee is no good this year, 1-5 in conference play. But Green Bay, that's the team you're competing with. So you kind of go back and forth for the upcoming schedule for the Oakland women's basketball team. So that'll close things out for us here on the GioMo Show. We had the highest of highs and some pretty low lows for this weekend, so we kind of break even for the Golden Grizzlies. As the men's team are fighting for a top 4 spot in the Horizon League, and Oakland's looking to jump just 1 spot to get that top 4 spot in the Horizon League. It's been a lot of great basketball, and we got a lot of great basketball coming up on the GioMo Show here. We'll have your recaps, we'll have your highlights, and we'll get you storylines here every week here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the GioMo Show, rate, review, and subscribe, and we thank you for watching. My name is GioMoShow, and we'll see you next week, or we'll see you at O Grizzly's this week here on the GioMo Show.